Over a century ago, one of my Orleans district attorney predecessors prosecuted Homer Plessy's brave defiance of the Louisiana Separate Car Act of 1890. Just one of many Jim Crow laws passed by the Louisiana legislature to codify white supremacy and racial segregation after the Civil War. Homer Plessy died convicted of this crime, but the legacy of Jim Crow laws lived on for generations. Lived on, that is, until a steady stream of civil disobedience by heroes standing on the shoulders of leaders like Homer Plessy risked their lives, causing so much good trouble that elected officials were forced to act. But the legacy of separate but equal still casts a shadow on all of our lives today. That shadow is clearly visible in the gross inequalities we see across this city and across this state, and I say across this country. It was important that the office that prosecuted Homer Plessy be the office to ask for his name to be pardoned. Because we all know that while Homer Plessy's actions at that time made him guilty of a crime under the law, it was really the law that was the crime. My predecessor should not have prosecuted Homer Plessy. Just because a law can be enforced or a person can be prosecuted does not mean that they should be. Slavery was lawful for 250 years in this country. The late Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, "True reconciliation exposes the awfulness, the abuse, the hurt, the truth. It is a risky undertaking, but in the end it is worthwhile. Because in the end, only an honest confrontation with reality can bring real healing. And although our great country has slow-walked its reckoning, the office of the DA will not. America has never had a process of truth and reconciliation, an honest confrontation with the reality of its oppressive past. And we see the direct consequences of this failure to have an honest conversation so boldly in the criminal legal system, most notably with the grossly disproportionate criminalization and incarceration of African Americans. The Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office is now working openly and transparently towards confronting those dire consequences. But while we seek to correct the sins of the past, we must acknowledge my predecessor's roles in committing these sins, if for no other reason than to build the public's trust in our legal system. We must reckon with our past. We must confront, we must acknowledge, and we must humbly ask for forgiveness for the role our legal institutions have played in the apartheid that the people of this country have endured. Let me be clear, Homer Plessy was no criminal. He was then and he is now a hero. And we will do our part to ensure that history reflects just that. Homer Plessy, Louis Martinet, Albion Toujé, and the Citizens Committee belong to a long line of heroic civil disobedience that Dr. King traced all the way back to the early Christians defying unjust Roman laws. The state of Louisiana prosecuted Homer Plessy to make a point of upholding a racist law. And just as these trains are weighing in and hissing the same way they did when he boarded that train, today we make a very, very different point. We now ask our governor, Governor John Bel Edwards, to pardon Homer Plessy from the stain of immorality on our state's history. So let me welcome our friend of New Orleans, friend of justice, our governor, John Bel Edwards.